duke it out, but as you get the return fire, the damage onto you, your physical power increases. That makes your driving strikes deal more damage, your excavates just to deal that final blow.
SSG.
I did know that the ultimate was excavate. I did. I did. It was just in the memory bank. Bands coming out so far, Yana's going to be number 1. A Shibalanke band out as well. Expect to see a lot of that as the game continues. 2 Guardians, Terra and Athena, going to say goodbye as well. Space Station Gaming does have the first selection. And as we hear that, it's Doth Guy.
When their set against E United specifically was a back and forth between Baskin and Venenu on the Thoth. Space Station realized Thoth is pretty darn good for at least our own individual playstyle.
Yeah.
A lot of teams figuring out what works for them, and Space Station identified it's the mid lane for Baskin.
Hachiman going to be the hunter of choice for Counter Logic Gaming, and they're going to pair that with a Geb.
Interesting.
Geb is annoying, very much so.
It is annoying to face off against the Geb, but what's more interesting is that the Geb was picked so early in the draft in a world where Athena gets banned. There's also the Sobek available. That's usually the next go-to kind of Guardian, especially considering that Jigs really heavily prefers that pick.
Well, Serket and Guan Yu on the same team. I love these selections here for Space Station Gaming for 2 reasons. One, the Serket is great in the hands of Amister, full stop. That's just nice and well and dry. But what it comes down to it is that Guan Yu is a healer. Serket can shut off that healing, so you double pick the healer and the counter with the idea of banning Odin here after the Thor pick.
But the Geb is a good counter to Serket. You drop the shield on anyone that's targeted by the last breath, give them that extra couple of seconds that they need to get away. Thor, global pressure out of Homie Efe, allows those silent ganks to start occurring, or maybe just to counter gank against whatever Anister is trying to do.
And again, this is just a selection that I think Homie Efe plays very, very well. So I like to see the Thor there. Final bans coming out. Odin, Ra, and Artemis. Nothing really surprising there. The Chang'e, though.
It is interesting, right? Because you think Aquarius could play the Chang'e with that Thoth damage. You know, the Wax and Moon, Final Judgment, very annoying to handle, and it's very difficult to gank the Chang'e in the solo lane. I believe he did play it against that set against the United one game. I can't remember exactly which game it was, but you're not going to get Chang'e, you get Aphrodite instead.
There it is. That one's likely to go into the solo lane with Guan Yu being the supportive choice. We need a hunter here for Space Station Gaming. And of course, that is up to interpretation. We will see what happens when we hit the battlefield. But right now, we'll see Jing Wei in the hands of Barracuda, one of his preferred hunters, I believe.
It's something that he's played just ever since Season 3 when he was on the same team with Xenotronics during Luminosity Gaming. They, flexed between the Soul and the Jing Wei, could go either way. A very safe pick. And against Snoopy's Hachiman, that's kind of what you want to do. There's a lot of poke potential with the Heavenly Banners, and then once you use that amount of archery just to commit, it's very difficult to escape, even with the airstrike.
Last pick, Robin. That one's going to hurt, but it's very interesting because that means either the Robin or the Thor will be solo lane. I expect to see Thor solo. Recently, he did get a change where he excels at killing the minions with the hammer toss, and I do know that Thor solo is something that Counter Logic Gaming's Final K actually enjoys.
It's possible, but it's no Season 2 Thor where you could start at level 1 with the red pot, and that's when Thor solo was really...
Aye. No.
Robin's more safe, but Thor can bring you the engagements on the side lanes, so it depends on what CLG wants to do.
So it's an interesting solo lane matchup. Thor versus Aphrodite. We'll see if that's the case, but if that is the case, Toli, who wins the matchup?
You're not winning the matchup. You're farming and out-rotating the Aphrodite. You're not killing her.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens with the game at large. Righty, set, go. Game 1.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Toli, Finch, and Taco here going into Space Station up against CLG. And Taco, that's a lot of sustain on that Space Station roster between the Guan Yu and the Aphrodite.
It's a pretty spooky amount of sustain. It's bad enough when you already see one of those healers going through, but to get both of them, now that is the package deal that Space Station are definitely looking for.
And you heard them talking about it on the desk. That Aphrodite is so safe in lane. I mean, is there really anything you can do to slow that down? Can you kill it? I mean, are you just trying to out-farm it? Is that really all you can do?
If Final K is actually going to be representing the Thor solo, then I do feel more that Toli's statement rings a little bit more true because of the fact that, like, Thor, you don't really have many opportunities to try and actually lock down the Aphrodite and kill her. She can play that lane as passive as she wants to, more importantly, it is going to be about those rotations. I think that the Thor's semi-global presence is going to be pretty strong here in terms of just trying to focus out singular members from Space Station. I think in those team fights especially, we're going to probably be seeing a lot of Thor emphasis towards that Aphrodite, just to at least keep her CC'd out for a moment or two, enough time for everybody else from CLG to actually collapse.
Well, you saw it there on the screen. Who do you think is going to win this matchup? Vote for us, please, in the Mixer poll. That way we can get your idea. And where do you think that Thor's going? I mean, it is. We don't see Robin in the solo lane much anymore, but you kind of think you'd want that global presence from the Thor to affect more parts of the map, but we'll see where it ends up going here. Sounds like we are just about ready to go ahead and move into game, Taco, and go ahead and see where this all shakes out.
And it will be Thor solo, fine, okay. If Doc called it, and, well, it just makes more sense. You don't really want the Robin in the solo lane. I mean, Homie FA, I am confident that he's got a sick enough Thor to where he's probably one of the pick two, but Robin is just going to fare so much better because it's bad enough trying to like kill the Aphrodite, but I think in an Aphrodite versus Robin matchup, probably the Robin's more at risk of dying than the Aphrodite.
No, Aphrodite is very strong in lane, and with this option, it really does kind of lean a little bit more towards the strategy of we're not trying to like we're not trying to outlane you, we're not trying to kill you over here that much, we're really just trying to see if we can get some impactful rotations to other parts of the map. This now allows Fine OK to perhaps have some impact on this Baskin Hurricane lane. If he wants to come over and try and catch Baskin maybe after evade and punish or something to that effect, and try and give a chance here for Hurricane to get ahead on this Raijin.
Not gonna lie though, it's pretty hard to avoid being concerned for CLG's composition here because they kind of took a bank that they would make it into that mid to late game team fighting stage, but Space Station's draft overall I feel has a lot more room in terms of messing up the execution. I don't think that CLG have a comp right now that is going to be very forgiving, if at all, if they aren't able to actually pick up a pick or two during these fights.
And that's the question. I mean, what is the stage of the game where you think the CLG roster or draft does better than Space Station? Because I can't imagine it's late when they have the Aphrodite and the Guan Yu heals, you know, and even a Circuit to go along with that, and Thoth for huge damage. I mean, where's the spike from CLG that they're looking to play around?
Everything's going to be based off of Hurricane. I think that this is the game where Hurricane has to really stand out apart from the rest, and Raijin into the Thoth, I mean, you expect the early game to be more in favor of the Raijin just because he does have the damage available, and that's a nice plus, but the range and mobility from Space Station's draft as a whole, I feel could cause a lot of complications here for CLG as they try to transition over into the mid to late.
See how well they're able to make that transition happen as the early game seems to be shaking out fairly standard between these two so far, and that's about what we expect. No one has any really like disastrous matchups that they're fighting into early on. Annister was able to grab the Circuit and make sure they had the healers on their side so they don't have to worry about that causing any potential problems for them. As it looks like there is a slight XP advantage coming over here towards Barracuda and Jeff.
The Geb shields will be crucial too because Andy, every Circuit player knows Geb is like your mortal enemy.
Sure.
Almost every single time that you think that you're about to get the last breath and the poison's going to spread all over the place, Geb shield. And they're A-okay. They get out 10 HP. So Space Station do need to be careful of not overcommitting their resources because if they're unable to fully capitalize, the same story could happen to them.
Already really good damage onto Fine OK, who forced to go right to the spin. Uses the hammer for damage, so will not have that for the escape. Aphrodite coming through with the heals, but only the tail end is going to go to help Annister. Lands the second stun, and Andy has the Death Bane. That's enough for him to get away.
I believe the ambush got canceled out there from that wall by Fine OK, and well, Andy might live, but same can't be said for his blue buff. Query is getting cut off now from a very nice wall out of Fine OK. Homie FA with the body blocks could potentially be looking for more, and then you remember that the birds, they heal.
Man, but that is actually a pretty big deal. Aphrodite is one that wants the blue buff over here in the soul lane. There are some soul laners, like Sobek comes to mind, where if you take the blue buff away from them, they won't struggle that much at a certain point, but early Afro, she wants that.
Yes and no. I mean, she's still against the Thor. Fine OK has to walk up to the wave if he really wants to clear it, and I think that Aquarius is going to have enough time to toss out those lovebirds and still get away and play it relatively safe from underneath his T1 tower line.
Annister continuing to be aggressive into the jungle. Looks like Aquarius might be coming into the jungle his own self. Just dropping down a ward does not want to be caught unawares by any more ganks over here to the solo lane if Homie wants to come show a little bit more attention here on this Robin. So that'll help out. Aquarius, as you said, is probably going to play a little bit further back if need be here without some of that extra sustain. And now with that extra information, he'll have an easier time of that in the lane.
They're not going to be able to find that persistent gust onto Snoopy, but Jigs still giving hot pursuit off that Geb rollout. And wanted that cooldown available for just a little bit longer. Not too sure that Jingwei's really the guy that's going to be able to find that first blood capability on her own turf.
Yeah, especially up against the Hachiman, who's so strong in lane, right? And so safe, so it might be a bit difficult for Barracuda to be able to find that. And he is paired up here with the Guan in lane, who's very strong, so depending on if they are able to catch it out, they might have a chance, but Jigs is also very safe on the Geb, so Barracuda probably not really looking for kills so much as trying to find his farm, and then once he's, got his build on, start rotating over to help out the rest of the squad. Some
nice deep wards there from Fine OK, I believe. That's been the one placing them. There's one on those back harpies near the blue buff, and now that Anderson's trying to play a little bit more aggressive, they've got to make sure to still be on the lookout for Homie FA, which is why we see the rotation coming out of Jeff Hinla, try and ensure that his team can secure their own blue.
Yeah, this is really important. Aquarius needs this. Jeff Hinla's here to make sure that Homie and Fine OK are not going to be able to strip this one away. Had to use the teleport already, did Aquarius, so wouldn't have had an easy way right back into lane. So that's good they were able to drop that and try and make life a little bit easier for the Afro over here, who's not really too far behind it.
And of course, Barracuda never going to be upset about getting a solo farm a wave. I think any hunter would be pretty satisfied with that. And CLG, both Hurrywin and Snoopy, just splitting the farm of that red buff. And Baskin did choose to head on back to base, finish off those penetration boots, but so far, so good for both sides.
And start fighting it out with Homie, is going to drop the ultimate during the overhead kick. Baskin not able to land the evade and punish, so Homie Faye is going to be able to continue retreating into the jungle. Not really that much coming from that one, but we're seeing the difference here between these two solo laners. The meditation, as opposed to the teleport that's coming out here from Aquarius. You see a little bit more meditations here lately, and it looks like Fine OK is one of the ones that's kind of leaning towards that.
One of the best ways to try and counteract the healer meta is to bring heals of your own. Granted, I don't think that a meditation is really going to be able to match the sustain that an Aphrodite and Guan Yu can both provide. But it's just a nice benefit to have because Aquarius can do this all day long. He's just sitting there farming, and he knows that Fine OK is proxying the wave. Not a whole lot that he can really do in terms of killing Fine OK himself because, well, he'll just ult at the second that Andy even tries to gank. So it has to be one of those guaranteed confirms. Otherwise, I don't think we're going to see Anderson really wasting too much time trying to chase down a Thor.
And it's interesting because we've seen Anderson have to come over towards the solo lane a little bit more often. We haven't really seen that many attempts at ganks in the mid or dual lane so far. So Barracuda, Baskin have both been kind of, and Hurwin and Snoopy also, have kind of been under little to no pressure, just been able to farm at this point. And we talked about it. If there's no pressure, eventually these healers are going to be a problem as Homie trades out with Anderson in the jungle, brings him down to about half health.
Well, 4 members from CLG getting into position here to both cut off Space Station from providing reinforcements on securing the blue buff, and just to make sure that could happen, Homie FA and Fine OK will make sure to get that cooldown back in their favor, or respawn buff timer, I should say.
But purple buff is going to go the way of the dual lane of Space Station, Barracuda and Jeff Hinla. One of the oldest duo lanes you could want to see. Certainly crowd favorites, able to come grab it from Snoopy and Jigs. That purple buff is going to be theirs. And able to come freely snatch up their own as well, as Jigs is kind of in the mid lane trying to help out with that pressure against the Afro.
Oh, speaking of which, 4 men strong there from CLG. Baskin's the target. He won't be able to sustain throughout all of that damage. And Homie FA is going to get that first blood credibility to his name. But man, there is nothing. I mean, we call Baskin a god all the time. That's certainly one way it's taken down.
No, it seems like it requires that, doesn't it? At this point, you got a 4-man rotate over to kill him. But there's really nothing Baskin could have done there. He even used the beads. It just wasn't enough. The wall from Fine OK was really well placed to limit his back options towards the tier 1 tower. And then Hurwin's damage on the Taiko drum's just too strong.
Is it weird that even in those sort of moments, I'm still halfway expecting Baskin to escape and get a kill?
Yeah, I'm like, why didn't they bring all 5? This is Baskin we're talking about, okay? Just a 4-man gank? That ain't gonna get it done, but apparently it was enough. Yeah.
Pretty heavy insult, too. But Baskin still staying intact as far as the farm is concerned. Hariwen, of course, is just going to have a slight lead, but that's just unavoidable. I don't think that Space Station, even if Baskin knew that rotation was coming, Space Station didn't have anybody in position in time to really try and help out. Aquarius is definitely not expecting this one to come through, though.
We might be seeing a repeat of what we just saw happen in mid lane. Wall is going to catch Aquarius off. He's already down to half health. Doves come out for the heal. A good back off. But now comes in the slow, the Cataclysm, and the Mystic Rush. Homie Faye going to do the last hit. And Aquarius falls too.
2 ults are better than 1, but Andy could be looking for more onto Hariwen. Baskin still charging the ultimate. He's going for it. Not enough damage, however, even with the last breath and that final judgment. Hariwen just going to barely manage to slide on out of there. And Barracuda and Jeff Hinla take that purple buff yet again. Red buff, though, will be added.
And I think this is why Baskin went in, because yes, he had a chance maybe to get the kill. I don't know if that was fully charged Final Judgment, but at the very least, it does push Hariwen away, right? So that means now Hinla and Anister can rotate over and steal that red buff pretty freely, try and give them some response, because it's been Baskin that's fallen, Aquarius has fallen, they've been trying to steal his blue buff. The purple-red buff invades on the duo side is going to help even that out a little bit.
The concern here for CLG is not so much finding picks in the laning phases. I think that's probably the easier part of this composition for them. It's just, can they continue to effectively punish Space Station throughout the entirety of this match? I mean, once the laning phases are done and the team fights are really coming forward with a lot more fluid rotations happening everywhere, I don't really see a situation in which CLG should have an opportunity to just drop 2 to 3 ults on one target.
Yeah, it's not going to continue to be a viable strategy. It's sort of, I think, what you're alluding to there, right, Taco? They can get these picks early, and that's why you're saying that's relatively easy for them. They can't all in commit. The problem is that's not going to be something they can continue to do for the whole game and expect to be successful here. Eventually, Space Station are going to be strong enough where they can survive through the burst, where the Aquarius joins up with the Aphrodite and is able to Undying Love through it. They've got to be able to build up a big enough lead early to where they can just win the team fights later.
And it's evident, despite CLG getting the better out of things for 2 early picks, I have no idea if this Gold Fury is even happening right now. Space Station going to get this one for free. Baskin probably doesn't even need to use the ultimate, but will do so just in case, as Barracuda harasses Snoopy and Jigs on the other end. They didn't think that Gold Fury was happening because Barracuda was still showing face.
That's really good from Barracuda to not give up the ghost, that they're up to that. And I think that was good timing, because it looked as if Homie and Hariwen had backed at that time too. So perhaps Space Station had some awareness of that. I wasn't quite tracking where they were, but that's a great call from them to come grab the Gold Fury. When they realize there's no commit, they all in on it, and Barracuda doesn't need to come to that either.
And those are the little plays that are going to end up catching up to CLG later on, because double healer comps, everybody knows you're racing against the clock. Can we keep them suppressed long enough to get our itemization ahead of theirs?
Drums is coming out onto Anister, because up in the air is fine, okay. Hariwen is able to take him down underneath the tier 1 tower. Rotations coming in from Aquarius, but this might be too little too late.
That was just a hot play out of Fine OK.
And earlier I was saying that I thought the Thor might be better in the jungle because you can affect both sides, but if the plan is to leave Barracuda alone, which it seems to be, then this kind of makes sense, right? This is the dunk in onto Baskin or Andy in the mid lane that has perfect synergy with the Taiko jumps from Hariwen, and they trusted he would land that stun, went right up in the Taiko jumps, where he even landed, and was able to get a beautiful combo.
Oh, also in comparison to the rest of Space Station's draft, why would you ever want to waste your time trying to capture a Jingwei's life? I mean, he's just got so much mobility with the persistent gust, the agility dash off of it, and on top of that, airstrike just in case. It's such a hassle, I think, finding early picks onto a Jingwei, that CLG would rather invest their time elsewhere, and so far it's been paying off.
And for the 3 kills that they have, I mean, we're 13 minutes here into the game, and CLG does not have a substantial lead really at this point. It's less than 1,000 gold, about 700 or 800 gold that separates them. The experience is a little bit more relevant, 2,200, but even still, CLG have not really been able to get too far ahead just yet.
Snoopy already knows. He probably dies there if he doesn't ult away. Whether he knew that reinforcements were looking to rotate or not, I don't think that that's a situation that Snoopy can really afford to eat a bunch of free-handed autos.
No, at that point, he had to make sure he backed out. That does mean Barracuda and Jeff Hinla can kind of aggress a little bit further around this purple buff spawn, but with the rotation over from Homie and Jigs, it's going to be much harder, and looks like CLG are going to be able to secure that for themselves. as there's aggression in the mid lane. Anister goes in on her when forces the beat. Final Judgment gets rushed from Baskin, does not find the shot, but Tycho Drums is just barely out of range. He's going to turn towards Anister, but Homie's continuing to chase Baskin with the Mystic Rush. Aegis keeps him alive for the second. Last breath to control, but Geb's shield is there for the cleanse, but evade and punish just too good, and Homie Fake gets punished in the mid lane.
That was some insane field from Andy, making sure to keep Baskin alive on literally 1 HP. Jig's going to be forced out of the Cataclysm. Barracuda dropping his own Purification Beats just to airstrike for the kill.
Too strong. Now Snoopy is rotating over along with Herwin to try and catch him out, but he will not be punished. Barracuda on the Jingwei going to be able to jump out of here, no problem. Fino can't find the target either, and CLG are reeling after a strong play from Space Station in mid.
Whew. Andy still trying to find that taunt onto Fino K. He's only got the Mystical Mail, so he isn't as tanky as you would imagine, but as a level 15 solo lane Thor, he can still deal plenty of damage.
This is a good call, though, from Space Station. They've grabbed the Pyromancer now for themselves and the Gold Fury. Despite CLG grouping for picks, the objectives have all gone the way of Space Station so far.
And that's a huge problem for CLG. They need to start finding some of these objectives and not just letting every single one of them go in favor of Space Station. I know it's only been 2 so far, but those 2 are going to end up biting CLG in the butt later on. We keep mentioning racing against the clock because you just can't stay even with a healer comp. No. They're just going to group and siege everything.
Now, Taco, my question for... Could they have killed Andy there in the mid lane? Because Tycho Drums was out of range for trying to catch up with Baskin, and so he switches targets, Hurrywin does, onto Andy, but Homie continues the chase onto Baskin underneath the tier 1.
It's too uncertain whether or not you'd actually be able to catch up to the circuit between Ambush and the Deathbane. So going for Baskin is typically the safer play. Going for Baskin while Anister is full health underneath the tower with you, completely different story.
And in that case, Anister plays it perfectly to Peel as Barracuda takes about half his health in dual lane. Didn't have beads, but holds on to the Aegis, so he'll be okay. But just perfect play, the last breath. And then Jigs was perfect too. He rotates in with the cleanse so that Homie Fake can keep chasing, but then the Cobra's Kiss is there too. It's just too much from this Serket in the jungle. That's why sometimes she plays support. She can control a fight to a certain extent.
Yeah, Homie is probably not happy with himself for overcommitting in that way. I think that he definitely was expecting a kill to happen. Speaking of which, Jigs forced into the Cataclysm, but no one's there to eat it.
Final Judgment is the follow-up, evade and punish there too. Jeff Hinla goes underneath the tier 1 tower so Baskin can find the shot, but they commit a little too hard, and now could be trouble for Baskin, and it is. He falls down. Fine OK is the one that gets that hit. Jeff Hinla now able to escape. Wall not quite good enough to trap in. Anister and CLG make a 1-for-1 happen.
But Barracuda and Jeff Hinla should be able to heal up enough with Barracuda grabbing these oracles, especially. CLG might not be as tempted to go for the Gold Fury here, as Homie Faye is looking for Barracuda.
And gets to avoid the Mystic Rush damage. Barracuda, though, does not have the airstrike, and Homie able to trap him down. Fine, okay, walls off the reinforcements, and CLG make it a 2-for-1 overall, and that's what they needed to come over towards the Gold Fury confidently. Still here, though, is Jeff Hinla, along with Aquarius and Anister. They won't give this up for free.
Back off could force CLG away from the objective, though. It's enough damage, I think, that it can pose a threat, which is why we see CLG trying to take their time with this one. But Hurrywin has no Purification Beads, and Andy's looking for him on the back end.
He's going on the backside. Geb's shield is enough to force Anister away, but Gold Fury had to be leashed. Jeff Hinla gets rooted, but it's not enough. And Baskin's on his way. He has Final Judgment, but will it be in time? Gold Fury goes to CLG. But Space Station wants to see if they can find the fight. Hurrywin has to Thunder Crash away. Even Tycho Drums to make sure he's safe.
Bit surprised that Andy doesn't keep going for it. Instead, they're all eyes onto Homie Efe. Is Andy going to end up grabbing Jigs back into the mix? Cataclysm coming forward, and just in time, Aquarius saving the life of Anister yet again.
Wow, that turnaround was huge. I thought Anister was done for, but Aquarius just barely helps him sustain back up after they don't have enough damage to get it all done. But CLG force the fight on the Gold Fury. They are able to grab it, and they get a 2-for-1 before the Gold Fury actually got taken down too. So that's just a win CLG really needed.
CLG, they've got the Pesty, they have the Brawlers, Divine Ruin finally online for Hurrywin. This is now the time where they can afford to try and actually fight back into Space Station's composition. Now that they have a sufficient amount of lifesteal to really keep this healing suppressed. It won't be easy still, though.
No, it's not an easy task into the Guan Yu and the Aphrodite. And they've done a good job of, so far, responding when a Space Station are the ones who are the aggressors. Anister kind of goes in on Jigs in the mid lane, and that gank works, but Jigs lives just long enough to where they have to step a couple steps into the tier 1 tower. The rest of CLG are there so they can make their collapse, Taco. And so that was what kind of set up for them to at least make it 1-for-1. And earlier, Barracuda had his airstrike forced out, I believe, and that helped them set up the kill on him from home.
It's an overtime kind of build-up. Being able to force out the little abilities from Barracuda to then try and find them later on. Speaking of which, fine, okay, no one's expecting this one from so deep.
He lands on both of them, forced to use the beads. Baskin is able to jump away. Jeff Hinla going to be all right too, but that's okay. Homie, or not home rather, but fine, okay is like, hey, we got the beads off Baskin. That's a win by itself.
Fine OK is quickly becoming super problematic for Space Station. He's level 19, the most farmed individual on the map right now even. 1-0-4, been a part of every single kill that CLG has profited off of, and even rushing that cursed Ankh for the upgrade, so it's clear that they want to fight.
Anister rides along on the horse, so takes a couple tier 1 tower shots. Snoopy is forced to retreat, had to use the purification beads of his own to get away from that, but as you mentioned, Fine OK. Been doing such an excellent job here in this game. And the fact that he's ahead, the fact that he's itemized like this to try and make problems for Aquarius and Jeff Hinla, that's going to be such a big boon for them, but they've kind of got a window now where they need to act on.
I almost wish that Answer would have held his last breath instead of dropping it onto Snoopy, because he's already in the mounted archery. He's probably going to be able to create enough space between himself and Barracuda, because you know Andy's going to be along with the ride for him. So he only has to worry about the Circuit. If he can make it towards his T2 with enough health, there's no way that Andy's going to be prompted to want to stick around since he doesn't have the backup support of Barra.
And in that case, there really wasn't much kill potential. And Answer kind of goes on that one, catches him in the Jutsu, but he still is able to kind of bounce back in from the knockup. So in the end, Snoopy's kind of okay. And Barracuda, level 18 in his own right, still doing a good job experience-wise over Snoopy.
He's had all of the buff control in duo lane, and that was CLG's plan from the start, I think. Normally, I mean, we were saying Space Station wanted to leave Bear alone, but it was more so CLG choosing to leave Snoopy alone. They kind of just accepted the fact that they were going to be forfeiting their duo lane buffs, because it meant profiting elsewhere on the map.
That's right. That was sort of the price they paid for the repeated buff invades onto Aquarius, who is level 17. He is behind Fine OK, but he's not really behind relative to everyone else. Fine OK is just farming absurdly well at this point, so Aquarius is still going to be relevant for the squad. That's just kind of the price they paid. Barracuda's a little bit ahead of Snoopy, Aquarius a little bit behind Fine OK.
We still haven't seen a true 5-on-5 team fight, though.
That's true.
From either side, and I'm more so curious about what a real Gold Fury dance is going to look like between these two teams, because Aquarius has been struggling a little bit here. It is Aphrodite into the Thor matchup, and I think that because of all the pressure Homie FA was providing early on, it kind of made Space Station take note of the solo lane, as opposed to just abandoning that and letting Aquarius do his own thing. I don't think that Andy was able to camp mid in the way that he was kind of hoping to on the Circuit.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point. You talk about that 5-on-5 we haven't had yet as Snoopy gets pushed back. I mean, how do you like the poke war between these two when they're on the objective? Because Basket is really strong from long range, and any poke CLG does, Space Station should ideally be able to heal up, right?
Well, that's the thing, is that CLG probably have to kill Baskin first before everything else, because if they do fail to kill Baskin, then his final judgment should be able to steal every single one of the objectives that CLG tries to go for.
And that's how it's been for CLG. I feel like it's been all in from them, right? Like when they dunk in on Baskin, they kind of blow him up right at once. It's not as if they're having these prolonged fights where they slowly whittle them down, as Baskin is able to dash away with the evade and punish right back towards Aquarius, who's happy to heal him up. Now Barracuda's the one who's forced to jump away. Homie comes in with the root, but Barracuda's right there to use the airstrike, holds on to both relics.
A lot of strong poke, though, coming forward from those guys, and Barra even backing now, afraid that Homie FA would be looking for more, which he in fact was looking for more.
But he has that rapid reincarnation. He'll be back much faster than other hunters, but CLG are ready to start up the Gold Fury already, Taco. Final Judgment is being charged, but Jigs blinks in with the Cataclysm. Up into the air goes Fine OK, and he dunks down on the backside. Jeff Hinla immediately responds with his own cavalry charges. Now it's Homie with the Mystic Rush, and his target's Baskin, and he takes him down.
Homie will succeed in taking out Baskin, but it's going to end up costing his own life, and it's going to end up finding baseball in the mix as well, and now FineOK still trying to push everybody back from Space Station.
But this is exactly what I was talking about. When the all-in works from CLG, I feel like the fight's going to go so much better for them. They can't afford to stand in a Gold Fury, pull it over and over again, and trade attacks. They have to force an all-in fight from Space Station, and they win that one 2-for-1.
Space Station's still healthy enough, though, to want to pull this objective 3v4.
Yeah, this is surprising, Taka, that they're going to pull this. And they do end up dropping it. FineOK has to back. Heroin's still here. They don't have Homie anymore after he all-inned on top of Baskin and just kind of ruined his day. And neither team actually going to grab the Gold Fury. CLG have to back off as well.
Here's the problem, though, is that I think CLG just got a little bit lucky there in confirming the kill onto Answer just because it was such a clumping of everybody in such a tight space. But as the game progresses and these fights start to get more and more spread out and sporadic, I think that CLG are possibly going to start struggling because this sustain, even with all of the anti-heal CLG already have, 3 members didn't even look like they'd been touched.
And at this point, they were still able to, even though it was the 5-on-5, they were still able to isolate Baskin and isolate Barracuda, right? Early on in that fight, Barracuda has the airstrike forced on before it even starts, really, and then they go for the Gold Fury. Then Homie is able to dive all the way to the back where Baskin's basically alone. That's still not the fight Space Station want to have. They really haven't had that fight yet, their dream kind of fight.
I don't think that Space Station are going to have the leisure of being able to pick out a dream fighting circumstance, though. It's probably just going to end up CLG being punished over Space Station having a great initiation, because this isn't a team comp that you initiate with. It's a team comp that you counter initiate.
Right. It's not so much about their initiation. It's Jigs who's done a good job initiating. He's doing it here again onto Aquarius with the shockwave. Gets the knock-up, but he's getting a bunch of damage in return from Basket over the wall, while Homie tracks down Annister yet again. CLG start off with a pick. FineOK's up in the air, can't find the target when he lands, thanks to the Undying Love, and Heroin comes crashing in to provide more damage.
This is a lot of damage, though, being applied onto Homie. FA, Barracuda finds a nice knock-up onto Jigs and FineOK, and he's still pushing forward for more. Won't be able to cut up top of that rock. So now all eyes onto Snoopy. He doesn't stand a chance, and what seemed like a really unfortunate team fight for Space Station has now completely turned in their favor.
And now comes the difference in the compositions. They both got a pick, but Space Station are the ones who are full HP because they have Guan Yu and they have Aphrodite. CLG was able to get a great pick on Annister, but that just was not enough. Space Station now regroup, claim the Gold Fury for themselves.
And he thought he was being slick, I think, and it's completely spotted out. And all eyes, I do think that Space Station are probably kicking themselves, though, because Andy's death was probably unnecessary. They were dropping a lot of their abilities onto Jigs, and it's a level 15 get. Good luck.
They did come in a lot on a Jigs to start that fight off. And that's what I was talking about. It's not so much about Space Station needing to be the one initiating, but they kind of want everyone closer together than what we saw in the first Gold Fury pull for when Jigs is the one that comes in to initiate, as they do land the stun. They're putting in a bunch of damage onto him yet again, but there's no backup for him. Doesn't even get Cataclysm off Barracuda. Finds the last shot, and Space Station 5 members strong are near the fire giant.
FineOK with these walls, though, on the Thor. They have been so accurate and great at helping members of CLG get out alive. Jigs, however, this time around, dropping everything on the get works out because there's no one around from CLG to try and help him get out of there. FineOK up in the air, though. Space Station, no, they perfectly leashed the fire.
That was so patient from Space Station. And FineOK, that's it. The ultimate's gone, and Space Station can just pull it again now. And CLG have a much weaker initiation without Jigs and without FineOK's ultimate.
They've got to try and out-confirm Baskin. Heroin, however, already being poked out to 10 HP, and Anderson's last breath going to be enough. Poison will not spread, but that doesn't even matter. He was their primary source of contest against this fire giant after FineOK's ultimate had been used.
That's right. Heroin is down now, and still Space Station are 5 members strong. Andy jumps over the wall towards FineOK. Fire giant low, but they've leashed it for now, and Snoopy's the target. Final Judgment's not enough, but Jeff Hinla is enough. Snoopy falls yet again. This is the kind of fight Space Station wanted. This long, prolonged fight over the objective, and CLG can't compete.
FineOK still not done just yet, though, but Andy's going to make sure that he stays away, ambushing straight on top of him. Pushes FineOK back to his own T1 tower and solo, and Fire Giant intact. Didn't cost them anything to get it.
That was disgusting, really. How long Space Station were able to stay on that Fire Giant, how healthy they all were all the way through that whole process. I mean, at this point, it's going to be a very tall task for CLG to win the fight. We got to see more of what we saw from that very first Gold Fury, were able to successfully get those big all-ins.
Look at that healing already, though.
Gross.
Every single member from Space Station just benefiting so much off of the sustain by Aquarius and Jeff Hinla. Aquarius also, if he wants to, I wouldn't be surprised to see him just stay permalink to Baskin during some of these sieges.
Right. At this point, Aquarius is healed enough to make Final K's damage irrelevant, basically. I mean, it's so much that he's done for this team, and then you tack on Jeff Hinla with another 3,500 or so of his own to add to the pot.
I actually want to see Final K sell. Well, looks like he sold the Warriors Blessing, but is headed in a different direction than I was expecting. I would love to have seen him pick up another Brawlers. I think that it would have been okay to pick it up here.
Just to try and get something to limit this healing. As Final K is waiting for his opportunity, he did not find it. He goes right back down. This has been an adjustment around Final K's ultimate. When it's not a surprise gank from the side lane, Space Station could just play around the Anvil of Dawn very well.
Look at Jigs, though, blinking right in, avoiding the stun out of Baskin, but Baskin's taking no damage whatsoever thanks to that Aphrodite ultimate. He's full health.
Now Jeff Hinla lands the two-man stun. Jigs already has fallen in this fight. Tycho Drums is on cooldown from Irwin, and Baskin cannot find the shot. Snoopy used Aegis anyway, and Space Station regroups, start pushing into the Phoenix. Final K is here, but now he's the target. Knocked up and deleted. Barracuda takes Final K out of the equation. Phoenix down to half health, and CLG only 3 members strong.
There's still 3 towers left on the map, by the way, but I don't think Space Station even care about any of them. Snoopy's going to mount an archery back into his fountain, and everybody else from Space Station is just collapsing on top of this Titan.
Wow, this healer composition, it felt like it was eventually inevitable. CLG put up a good effort, but it wasn't enough. Space Station continue to let the top card in North America as they take down CLG.
What do you even expect to do there? Like, I feel so bad for CLG.
That's
because
rough.
they honestly didn't really misplay, unless you count the picks and bans as a misplay, but that is just disgusting, watching healers completely control every single aspect of this game once the laning phases broke apart.
But I mean, could they have sat on Aquarius anymore? They took the blue boss as often as possible. They 4-man rotated over there. They killed Baskin and Andy too. It just was not enough, Taco, and now we got to turn to you. Mixer Chat, who was your MVP there? Please vote for us in the polls.
I don't feel like there was any one particular individual that really stuck out. I feel like whenever we see these double healer comps coming with the Guan Yu and the Aphrodites, it's always got to be the collective team effort. So good luck with that one, chat.
Not going to be an easy choice for you all to pick someone out of that Space Station comp that in particular made it happen because they all worked so well as a unit. But we'll go ahead and get it over to the desk and let them break it down.
Thanks a lot, Finch. Thanks a lot, Taco. Fantastic stuff coming out from Space Station Gaming. And I guess my question is, which is the real side of the squad? Is CLG the good team that people were asking for, or are they just floundering?
They're definitely a great team against Space Station Gaming that's so formidable. And the way Space Station piloted this game, left, middle, and right side of it, they were just trying to figure out a way to deal with the Aphrodite. CLG, they managed to group up in the early stages. They found an early kill onto her in a 3v1 scenario and allowed Final K like a little bit of a leeway to be able to out-rotate her and make a lot of plays happen with that global pressure. It just unfortunately wasn't enough because of some of the positioning that happened in the mid-game. It was a 1-for-1 around that 25-minute mark where it was Anister trading his life for Snoopy, which resulted in a Gold Fury because of all the sustain from not only Aquarius's Aphrodite but also Jeff Hinla's Guan Yu. Allowed them to transition to the Fire Giant where they isolated Jigs, and that's where the Fire Giant dance scuffle happened, and the sustain cup of Guan Yu and Aphrodite just favored SSG in the end.
Aphrodite having a giant impact here, being used as the traditional healer. Because of it, Aquarius, the pilot, will wind up our most valuable player. I like this new picture of Aquarius. I think it reflects his new style, his new swagger. He's a really big part of this Space Station Gaming squad.
It's difficult to really do much once you get to that late game. If you don't shut down the